Hello everyone and welcome to the final part of the Division preview for the Plattfeud in Transylvania DLC, featuring the German division out of the bunch, Sperrverband Kesel, helping out the Hungarians, keeping back the Soviets and the Romanians out of Transylvania, getting them out of there, and taking all the vampires for himself, and maybe getting some secret experiments going on. Who knows what was going on at that time. But yeah, it's a really nice division, named after its commander, and who also was the commander of 20th Panzer, by the way, when Bagration broke out. So a really busy person in the Steel Division 2 universe. And here we go with a really, really interesting division. Let's go into Recon, as always. Where we start with Aufklärers, coming in sadly only a couple of options. BMW R75, a Kubel, and a Kubel MG, so at least something with a gun, but not too impressive. BMW 750 Soluthorn, sadly without radio, so only radio option in this whole Recon tab is the Brandenburger Aufklärer, which are pretty pricey though for a 4-man squadron, but the radio helps out. Availability is mediocre. Smoke grenade is quite helpful, giving them a bit more utility. So radio plus smoke might give them the utility you want out of a 4-man squadron. For MP44s, not really killing anything. Maybe if you fight another Recon squadron, they might win with that. Otherwise, not really. And then the last Recon unit is the Hungarian Hardlers Badass, we already know. Which is not really a Recon unit, as we figured out already. Optics, good. Stealth, good. If you compare that to the very good and exceptional of other Recon units, shows you that they're a bit weaker than other infantry units when it comes to spotting and hiding. But they still can move behind enemy lines without affecting the front line. And they're a 12-man squadron with relatively good rifles that can kill off maybe used behind enemy lines to kill off enemy mortar teams that are unprotected or something like that. So using them for ambushes like that can be nice. And they're still slightly better in spotting than other units. And they're really cost efficient. 15 points for this you would take in the infantry squad as well, which is usually not the case with Recon units. But availability is a bit of the issue. Infantry tab, you start, for example, with a unit that is just worse when it comes to firepower and hit points. There's Ersatztruppen, same price, disheartened as well. But you get 3 less rifles, and the rifles you get are worse, so there you go. But Ersatztruppen you get quite a bit more of. The multiplicator there is quite immense. So yeah, that's the main theme of Ersatztruppen. You can spam them. Then the Sturm Pioneers at 20 points now, relatively useful. Opal Blitz and half-track options here. 20 half-tracks in this deck, so a good amount, like 1 or 2 units being able to equip with that if you want some half-tracks in your deck. Hashok, TNT squadrons with the FAG and the Danubia, and some TNT, as we've seen before. Bottom D transport, 6 availability is quite nice for TNT squadron, and with 13 hit points, they survive 1 TNT in a TNT versus TNT fight as well. So pretty solid unit, always worth taking in my eyes. The Hardlers Badass is a new unit with 12 hit points and a flamethrower. So your bigger flamethrower unit in here comes in the bottom D. So unlike the Sturm Pioneers, you can't get them in the half-tracks. You don't get them quite as quick. But for 5 points extra, you get a bit less availability, but you get 6 men more. So that's quite the difference. So really solid flamethrower unit. One of the stronger ones in the game for sure. Not quite pioneer level or anything like that, but still, obviously also losing out against the double flamethrowers, but still a pretty good unit for 25 points. Hadar Badass PK, the leaders fitting to these, are really nice as well. 25 point, 3 availability, 12-man leader. That is really solid hit points on a leader. So these guys can take some damage. Matzen, relatively okay, but not the most amazing of rifles. VG24, and Erma both on the bottom end as well. But 25 points for 12 hit points on the leader is nice. No utility, no radio, but still a good one. AG Löwesch, on the other hand, are really strong in the combat, and they have some utility, as they have some Molotovs. You only get them on base veterancy, as these are Mountaineer units. They come in with a Matzen as well. They come in with FEG 43s, so with pretty good rifles, and the Danubia 39. So really strong push unit with the Molotov. And the availability here is also pretty solid. A quite nice unit, 25 points, Raider, and 13 hit points for 25, already pretty nice. And the DPS on CQC, really solid as well. Heji Löwesch Tichit, the commander, coming with this. These have radio, 25 points as well. As you can see, you trade relatively much, like a lot for the radios. You lose availability, and you lose an automatic rifle, and you lose 6 hit points especially. So, not sure if these are worth it. Also still only coming in the bot on D, so nothing special there. Yeah, leader I'm not too impressed by. Next unit would be the Pioneers. Also, yeah, decent, but compared to the Arak Jog, I would rather take the Arak Jog. Or I just take some flamethrower units, as the availability is not too great, and they cost 25 points instead of 20 points, and you get 3 hit points less. And yeah, the MG34 gives you decent mid-range, but you don't need that because you want to get into TNT with these units. On the mid-range, they're cost inefficient anyways for their price. Panzer Grinders leader, standard, we have seen 1,000 times. Yeah, 4-man, smoke grenade, radio, relatively solid. Can't really go wrong, but also not too impressive either. Then the Galley, which are basically, yeah, they're the disheartened option of the Hedge Löwesch, and they have 1 hit point less and worse SMGs. The Mannerlicher and the FEG, I think, are nearly identical, or they might be even identical. I'm not quite sure about that. But the MP28's for sure worse than the Danubias. And what you get for it though is a lot of availability. You get double the availability compared to the Hedge Löwesch in A phase with 18, 27, 36. So really good availability on the disheartened unit that can still do a lot of damage in CQC. But the disheartened makes it so that they might run away relatively quickly as well, and they might get surrendered quite often, so you have to be careful, and maybe take some military police, as military police in the deck currently, pretty nice. And then we move on to the Brandenburger. Brandenburger Führer are pretty nice as well, for their strengths. And attack grenade, 6 strength, radio, but 30 points and low availability are making them not my favorite out of this bunch. 30 points always a bit pricey for a leader if they don't get really nice combat capabilities, and this doesn't have it. So no Panzer Shrek or sniper rifle or really many hit points. So no, not quite on my list. Brandenburger Pioneers though are, as they have smoke and double flamer. And they have decent availability with it as well. So, an absolutely worthwhile squadron going around with. And then Brandenburger, the normal ones. 3 cards of them is pretty insane. These units are really good. 12 strength, TNT, G43s, and 2 MG42s. So, they are basically Panzer Grenadiers on absolute steroids. With the G43, MP40s, 4 MP40s also giving a good firepower. For 30 points, a really effective unit, and can only recommend using them if you have them around. Availability is a bit lower, but you can compensate, for example, with the Galley or the Hedge Löwesch or the Ersatztruppen. So, yeah, mixing them in is quite nice. Then you also get normal Panzer Grenadiers, which you don't need really. I feel like if you have the Brandenburger, as the MG42 is the main reason you get them, and that you get in the Brandenburg as well. So, yeah. But if you want to go heavy MG42, you can even do more here. Or if you want to have more units, I mean, you get 4 times the availability compared to Brandenburgers if you take them on 0 vet, still double if you take them on 2 vet. So that could be a reason for going for the Panzer Grenadiers. The Panzerfaust on these ones doesn't matter too much, but I guess it's an advantage as well. So that's the infantry tab. Tank tab, the classic German tab. Panzer 4H, 1 card. Can only take them in A, but it's a decent tank. And then Stuk, you can choose freely. And then a Stuk 4, which is a really good medium tank, as its 1mm frontal armor make it immune to a lot of smaller tanks and relatively hard to penetrate for a lot of medium tanks. So Stuk 4, pretty trade efficient in a lot of matchups, which makes it super worthwhile the 5 points for those 10 frontal armor. The extra AP and E-shells also come in handy, but they're not too impactful. So yeah, Stuk 4, nice little tank. Support tab, as explained earlier, we have really good military police. The Chendur, currently 10 points, that most likely will change. Availability on these is also decent though, with 4, 6, 8. And 4 and 8 is pretty good for military police, and even if they go up to 20 points, this should still be a relatively worthwhile considering military police in this deck, because you have some disheartened units. You have the Skelly, you have the Ersatztruppen, so, and you have the Recon unit, the Hardlers, so using military police here could be worthwhile. But they have competition, as there's also a CV-33 gender, CV-33 police unit, and that is quite nice as well. Availability here, grade 2, so 2 of the best military police units in one single deck. Maybe some other military police could get buffed up to similar availability at least. Pretty solid unit. 50mm mortar, if you want to be sneaky, is in here as well. I'm not too great with them, but if you have the micro, these can be top. Schwalose, you get another time 6 cards of these, so if you want to spam them, go for it. Yeah, if you want to play Schwalose only, you nearly can do that. Flammenpanzer, 251/16, also a nice one. The double flamethrower might allow for some pushes, but always a bit tough to use, especially if anti-tank rifles are around. Brandenburger Mark MG42. Yeah, it's an MG42 with Raider. Decent, but nothing too fancy. IG-18 though, can be good as well. Gives a bit of fire support on the mid-ranges. And then normal MG42, which only loses the Raiders trait. Otherwise not real changes. So you rather take the Brandenburger, I guess. Opel Blitz ammunition for the supply, pretty standard. And the Stu-42, a really nice support gun with 2000 meter range. Absolutely important in this deck, as you don't have other 2000 meter range HEs or tank shots for that matter, but sadly the heat shell only goes 1500 meter on this thing, so you can't snipe on 2000 meter with its tank gun on other tanks. Still a pretty solid unit. Availability is a bit lackluster, but you have the recon, the support slots, so go for it. Then you have the commander, a Löwesch PK, super standard 4-man commander, commander half-track, and a commander Stuk 3. All decent option, but nothing here is really solid. Anti-tank, you start with some Solothurn anti-tank rifles. That is classic. Panzerschreck, good as well. Panzerbüchse, not a fan of, as they only deal 3 damage. And 3 damage means you need 4 penetration against the medium tank, and 3 penetrations against the light tank to kill them. No, 3 penetrations against... Yeah, against 8 hit point units you need 3, and against 10 hit point units you need 4 penetrations. And even with their high rate of fire, that's not gonna happen too easily. If you get a lucky crit, you might get there, but otherwise not a super great unit either. 40M40, decent unit, Nice that it had HE. Back in the day, pretty nice with 2000 meter range, but by now at 1000 meter range, a bit lackluster. The heat shell can be nice with its heavy damage, but the accuracy here rather low. AP shells and HE shells combined, yeah, doing pretty solidly. Marder 2, always great. Marder's pretty cost efficient at the anti-tank role. Marder 2 a bit of one of the more expensive type, but Pack 40 is packing a punch, so it can be absolutely worthwhile. And then a Pack 40 on the ground with solid classic unit, and then Stuk 3 F8, the lower armored version of the Stuk 3, which can bully some people as well, but it's obviously not quite a Pack 40 when it comes to APCR shell penetration, or AP shell penetration for that matter. Slightly lower with that. Anti-air, pretty standard German AA as well mostly, but you also get a Bofors on top. You get a flak feeling, you get a flak feeling on half-track, and you get the flak 41, and after the latest buffs to flak feelings, all of these options are absolutely worthwhile, so they will compete for these 3 slots, I guess, and I can't really say what you want. You have to decide on your own. All are pretty good in their part of it. Artillery, OFSS in off-map, 149mm off-map of Hungarian artillery. Then we have some mortar half-tracks. 120mm mortar, which doesn't have radio or anything, so it's not super special. A Vespa. Yeah. If it would be Hummels, I would like it. The Vespas, they are just doing too little damage thanks to the LAFH-18, so they're not really scaring anyone. And then this artillery gun, which we have seen on Romanian side with radio, on Hungarian side coming without, and then a classic leader and the Tujarek. And then the air, where there's actually not super much going on here. You get some recon planes, Wiesler Storch, and the Focke-Wulf 189. 189 in this deck without bombs. Usually you get them with 50 kilogram bombs. You pay 20 points less for it, but it means that you can't spot and bomb at the same time with the same unit. Which is a bit of a shame, but hey, it's fine. You still get some other good units. ME210 with 4 50 kilogram bombs. Not the biggest fan. Okay. ME210. Yeah. Not too great. Ju-87 D5 is the classic one, not the one with the 7mm. Has nice damage output with these. 420mm to the front. So can do result, or rather, as its twin, it's 620mm to the front. And then we get the Bf109 G6 and the G6 U4. Which are decent, but nothing super fancy. 540 kmh. And the G4, the 6 U4, you get the 30mm. Normal G6 only has 20mm. But I feel like the G6 might be a bit more experienced here. Ju-88 A8, A4. With a lot of 25 kilogram bombs, but these are usually relatively useless, so not the best bomber. At the same price, you get 2 500 kilogram bombs, and that is more my type. They actually do a good amount of damage. Also well done, as always, on the paint scheme, Eugen. But yes, Ju-88 can do a good amount of damage. And then the Focke-Wulf F8 with medium resilience. You get 2 cards of these, some nice fighter bombers that you can bring around. And I would recommend doing at least 1 card. On 0 vet you get 2 of them. And 250 kilogram bomb can really change things quite a bit. So that is the deck. You also don't get defenses just yet, but that's work in progress, will come. Yeah, you have artillery, you have off map, and the Marders and Stuks here. Doing pretty nice. Tanks pretty standard. Support pretty standard as well. And then in the infantry tab, Brandenburgers and all the Hungarian Molotovs carrying pretty hard. So should be a good deck. Nice German-Hungarian mix. Similar to what we got with Corporal 6 Territorial, where we have the Soviet-Romanian mix. So yeah, nice to have here as well. Looking forward to playing this in ranked. If you don't want to miss out on videos going live on YouTube, so that you don't miss the ranked played with this, for example, consider subscribing down below. Other than that, I hope to see you in the next one, and have a great day.